Hello, my friends. Indeed. Well, it's a real great joy to be speaking to you all here today. Why, it's a miracle indeed that I am able to be here to share words deep from my heart into this camera, and then these words go to your heart, to whoever's watching this. And that's a tremendous miracle, my friends. Indeed. Why, it's a real joy to be here in the modern age and to be able to look upon the world as it is today, Well, indeed, I am Grigori Rasputin. Well, I see that you've heard of me. Well, that's happy to hear, but indeed, I fear that perhaps you have maybe some misinterpretations and some bad ideas as to who I really am, Well, it's a long story as to why that is. But indeed, the truth will come out. But the most important thing for you to know is that, I am a man of good. I am a genuine, deep believer in my heart and soul. And I care deeply for everyone, I want to use my faith in God to help others and to help uplift the world, certainly. That's who I really am at my core. Indeed, certainly I had some problems with alcohol. But we can all work through the issues that we have. And with God's help, that's right. But there are many people who have had a very vested interest in giving a very dark impression of who I am. That's sad, because indeed there are many lessons from my life that are very relevant to your modern age. That's right, to any age, no matter when you're viewing this, Well, you find as you look at the things I encountered in my life, that indeed, while much has changed, sadly and happily, some things have not. Well, happily because the eternal principles of right and wrong that God gives us in our hearts, well, they're forever there, my friends. They're always waiting for us. But the darkness and the evil, which I encountered and fought against heavily in my life, well, I still see it here, my friends. Well, and I'm sad to see it, certainly. Thus, I would like to offer thoughts about what I feel as I look about at the world today. Well, indeed, this very mechanism by which I am using to communicate, well, that's a sign of great hope, for I didn't have that. I couldn't just record something and put it out for people to know how I really felt. Thus people are able to lie and smear me in the press. Well, it's great for people to be able to share from their hearts and have people take it to heart. But as I look at how it is being used, I think to myself, well, it really doesn't look as though in a great many ways it's being used in the right ways. For indeed, it's meant to connect people. It's meant to help people, connect in their hearts. But well, as I look at the social medias, well, I see that in fact it many times has the opposite effect. That people go into their own corners and they stop talking to those that they disagree with. Or that it disconnects them from the beauty of looking into other people's eyes and having a heart-to-heart discussion. Or that they put their focus on using it to share dark things instead of light things. But the reason for that is just because it's only a reflection of the character of the people who are using it. Well, just as the newspapers in the old days, they were just reflections of the character of the people who were writing them. Well, there's nothing bad in the newspaper, thus there's nothing bad in your social medias. Well, there's nothing bad in any tool, it's just how you use it. But I tell you, we have to make sure that we're focused upon the right things, upon making life better for people. For you know, in my day, the press became so obsessed with me and with whatever they wanted to say I was or wasn't doing, that they ignored the fact that we were in the midst of an insane war and that people were hungry and needed food. You can't have that. But thus I see today that the press and that people online, as it is, and people in other circles, well, they play up division. They play up people's frustrations. They focus in upon things that in the end don't really amount to anything. Upon lies, upon certain individuals. And you know, we have major problems to be addressed. And thus, that's what needs to be covered, and in an intelligent manner. That's right. And you know, I knew many men in Russia at the time, including one very dark and devious one named Milosevic Manulov, who prioritized money above all else in life, and thus they schemed and schemed after money. And indeed, their greed and their corruption, which they sought purely out of great personal ambition for a very empty goal. But their greed and ambition helped to destroy our country. For indeed, people, they lost confidence in the ability of their government and of companies and corporations to function and to serve them. For me, money doesn't exist because I see no value in it. The only value is what can be done to help each other and to increase the love in our hearts and our feeling of good. That's what's of real value. And that's really what I'm all about, having us determine what is of real value in life and then treasuring that and nurturing it inside. That's right. Indeed. That's a fact. People also lost faith in the news media of the time, the newspapers, because they made their priorities sensationalism and salaciousness and amplifying people's disagreements and frustrations instead of actually trying to report truth and real problems and how to solve them. Instead, they spread a bunch of lies. And indeed, people focused all their attention upon certain individuals, including myself, whom they either liked or extremely disliked. And then they wouldn't talk to anyone who happened to like or dislike that individual. And thus the country fractured, and thus people turned and listened to a dark individual who preyed upon people's fears, Joseph Stalin. And we all know the deep pain that came from that. I don't want to see happen to America what happened to us. And so I tell you, we must always know that the true strength of the country is the people. And the people must be filled with love for one another. So talk to people that you disagree with. Don't shut people off. Don't demonize people. Demand accountability from your government. Put your trust in people who are worthy of it, not charlatans who are only there for their own power, huh? That's right. We must demand from the press, from the news media, from all those who are in positions to reach people, to be more accountable for their words and actions, to be dedicated to the truth, and to really report upon key issues and the specific details of them, and what we can do to solve them, and not focus on trivial fights and inflaming the people of the in their frustrations to create more divisions. And above all, listen to yourself on the inside and know that the greatest factor in determining how the country goes is what goes on in your heart. So listen to your right mind and right heart. Don't be duped. Don't be duped by people who seek to prey upon you, who seek to instill fear and anger in you in order that they may use you to further their own power. And you know who I'm talking about, eh? Be committed to the truth and to love on the inside. That's right. And if you do that, then I have great hope for the future of America. Indeed. Indeed, my friends. And so I have great confidence, my friends, that the tide is turning. For indeed, there are many people using it for great joy and beauty. And this will only increase as time goes on. Well, I'll tell you why. I record this message in the year 2025. And so, you know, as time goes on, well, I have great hopes that the people will use these new modern forms of communication to build trust and friendship and relationships and share love and really share the beauty and the importance of life. People are doing it, certainly, and we just have to increase that and decrease the loud noise. Because, you know, well, there have been many people who have exploited fear and division. And I myself, one of them was my friend in the early days. Why, his name was Iliador. He was, it seemed he was a good fella. But then he became dark. You know, in fact, I was murdered in 1916. December of 29th of 1916. And thus my experiences, it's amazing that they are so reflective of certain things that I see in this day. Well, it's sad to see it. For indeed, in my day, in Russia, well, we had a succession of prime ministers. Well, and each and every one of them was quite old. And there's nothing wrong with that. But there was in this case, because these old men, well, they didn't really they didn't inspire the confidence of the people. Well, they didn't do a good enough job of answering the needs of the people. They may have been good fellows, but they didn't fully lead the country in the ways that we needed them to. And thus, when the people looked to their government and felt that it wasn't meeting their needs and that it didn't care for them, and that the people that were in power were out of touch and in many cases corrupt, well, they thought this. And thus they turned their ears toward voices that instead of filling that void in a meaningful way, they filled it with darkness. Voices of violence, voices that were demagogic voices. Well, Iliador, he got up and he pointed at people. He pointed at Jews. He pointed at minorities and immigrants. He pointed at the West and he said, it's all their fault. Trust in me. I can fix it. Well, I can fix it by going after these people. And thus he warped minds with hatred and fear. Well, and then other voices. Well, you had Lenin and you had Stalin. Well, they came and they said, well, we'll solve all your problems, my friends. Just give the power to us, eh? Look at these incompetents. Look at them. Hey, just go ahead and give us the power, eh? Give us absolute power. Well, and we know the very sad story of how that turned out. I saw it. I knew that would come if we didn't take corrective action. And that's what happens when one places their trust in people that seek to capitalize upon fears and angers for their own power. And then they abuse that power and they hurt people. And that's what I see today, my friends, in many corners of the world. And sadly enough, right there in America, right there, the place that should be standing against all this. Well, I see Trump. Well, it's a real sad thing to see, my friends, because indeed, well, he's a dark individual, certainly. Well, the way that he wants to kick out a bunch of people from the country who have not done anything wrong. Why would you do it? Unless you are operating from a cruel place in your heart. Well, he seeks to point at them and act as though they're the fault of problems, when the problems are much deeper than that. And of course, there are violent people, and those people should be apprehended, and indeed removed if they came from someplace else. But not millions of people who are good people in their hearts. Well, I encountered the very same thing. They wanted to kick out all the Jewish people. They wanted to kick out all the people of other races and all the immigrants from Western countries. Because they were an easy scapegoat for deep-rooted problems that needed great attention and great mental skill in order to solve. And doing the hatred, the demagoguery, it only made everything 10 times worse. And that's the case here. That's the case here. And you know, there was corruption in our government. And thus, eventually, our government just completely ground to a halt. Well, that's sad, because you need a strong and good government. But you also can't have it to be corrupt, so you have to have good people who have a good head on their shoulders, who will solve things in the right way, rooting out corruption but not destroying the institutions that we all rely upon. Well, that's right. And there are many other examples, but the bottom line is that the fundamental important quality in people who seek to be in power and leadership, my friends, is that they are sincere of heart and that they genuinely want to help you and that they are leading from a place of hope and optimism and saying this direction is a direction of love and faith, and we're going in that direction. Not in abusing others, not in cruelty, not in demeaning people. Well, that's all the road to ruin, my friends. Thus, America is in my prayers. For indeed, I said I want Russia and America to be two friends working together for the good of the world. And that would be a great ideal, certainly. But, well, unfortunately today, that's not possible given the present state of Russia. It grieves me deeply, my friends. I look out upon my former country, St. Petersburg, where I lived and had a great time. And I see a place of darkness. But I saw all that in my own lifetime. I saw that that's where it was headed. And it made me deeply sad. And it breaks my heart. This horrible man who has launched war against his neighbor in Ukraine. This dark and devious individual, Vladimir Putin. I speak directly to you, Vladimir. I tell you this, Putin. You are a devil. Screw you for everything you have done. You sad sack of shit. Well, that's right. You should be ashamed. The pain you've caused, the blood you've shed, all the sea of tears from your doing, your actions. My prayers are with the people of Ukraine. And my prayers are with the people of Russia, that they have a government that is deserving of the goodness that I knew when I was alive. I was a peasant. I knew the common people, and they're good people. And it's incomprehensible how they have suffered over the years, and how Russia continues to suffer to this day, because of the actions of small groups of corrupt and evil people who placed themselves in power and then lord themselves over the country, Well, it hurts the heart. It hurts the heart, but with prayer and with faith, I am confident that in the future, Russia will have people there who will truly capture the greatness of the Russian spirit, And you know, learning about my story and who I really was is a real good step toward that being achieved. For indeed, my story is suppressed in Russia, my friends. They don't want to talk about me. But talk about me they will. That's right. But you know, God watches over all the people in Ukraine, and tears fall from his holy eyes. But his hand of love is over all those who are grieving, over all those who have lost their lives. His hand of love is always with you, my friends, to all who are suffering. You can turn to God, and God will be within you. And that's the real great message that I wanted to share in life, is that God is always within us. What a beautiful truth. I spoke out strongly against war in my life, my friends. I tried to stop World War I. And if I did, then we wouldn't even see this war that's here now, because they were like dominoes falling. Well, there would have never been all of this 20th and 21st century defined by such conflict. Hey, you know, I went to the Holy Land, and I spoke there, and I said, you know, this place is destined to be a place where people of all faiths come together in love and harmony and show the whole world what faith really means. Thus it is, how deeply pained and grieved I am to look at it today and to see the bloodshed and the darkness. Thus I pray for an end to all of this, and thus I tell all those who are hurting there that indeed God loves you, and God cries for your sufferings, as do I. But indeed that God is with you, and indeed that all those who have been filled with hate and violence that have brought about all of this, well, they have what's coming to them in the end. They have destroyed their souls. That's right. You know, it's up to everyone to work for peace. There are many groups of people, indeed, who must have love enter their hearts. And we can bring that into people's hearts, my friends. There's never a heart that we can't bring love into. But it's difficult, certainly. You know, in my time, I idolized and adored the Orthodox Church. And indeed, there were many who were worthy of that idolization. But then there were those who were not. The same is true of churches today. Well, you know, if the churches were really doing their jobs, well, then we wouldn't see so many people who are hurting and lost and confused and causing hatred and violence. That's right. Well, the role of the church should be to nourish the soul. But too often it becomes, people feel that it's a cold authority figure wagging its finger at people, saying, "Stop sinning, sons of bitches," well, that's highly unfortunate, because, you know, God is all about changing people's hearts, and people's hearts long to be changed and to be nourished. And churches should be doing this, but many times they're not. And it saddens me to look upon the world today. Well, over 100 years since I was murdered. Thus I see that there is still this tendency amongst churches to be intolerant of others of different beliefs, to stand upon rigid ritual instead of passionate faith. Well, I hope we can see a change in all of this. For indeed, the highest and best thing of life is to become filled with good. And, I became filled with God by immersing myself in nature. I walked thousands and thousands of miles, and all by myself, and through Siberia, through mountains and wind and rain, oftentimes never stopping for 3 days, not eating for weeks, sleeping out in the open air in the snow and the dirt. Because that's how the hearty do it. Ah, indeed. That's right. That's a fact. Thus it is quite sad to me to see today the way nature is being treated. Thus it is saddens me to see that people deny that human beings are destroying the environment. Can't have that, my friends. We must treasure every single bit of life. We are all connected with life to each other. And I saw that as well. Thus I pray for the environment. And I pray for an end to war, certainly. And above all, I just pray that people treat each other with the love and kindness that they deserve. That's what God wants us all to do. And you know what that starts with? That starts with ensuring that every single child on this planet is loved and cared for. Well, it makes my blood burn, my friends. The idea that would even be a question. The idea that children should be suffering anywhere is an evil disgrace. And you should be ashamed. That's right. We should all be ashamed if there is any single child that ever wants for anything, especially love. And everyone should feel the love that God gives to him and her in dignity, in honor. Each and every human being has a dignity and an honor upon birth that cannot be violated. And that means they are deserving to live in a world where people love one another. And the reflection of that love, indeed, is that everyone is cared for. Indeed, that everyone is fed, everyone is clothed, everyone is housed, everyone has the medicine that they need, the healthy nutrition that they need. Well, we can't have a world where people are not nourished in their bodies. For then they are not living the way that God intends them to live, which is a life of nourishment in the soul. The body is there just for the soul. And if the body is in a state of hurt, what are we doing? Thus it is that everyone must do all that we can to support every effort to ensure that this world that we all know in our hearts becomes. That's right, for indeed Christ said, the kingdom of God is within you. And that means that we can build heaven right here on this earth. That's right. We can do that together, my friends. And it all starts with love in our hearts, eh? That's right. Indeed. Well, I'd like to offer my great, deep, and heartfelt thanks to some very special fellows. That's right. Without these fellows, well, I wouldn't be standing here sharing with you in the modern time, and the truth of my story wouldn't be able to be told. And thus, the great authors of these books, Joseph T. Furman, that's right, Rasputin, the Untold Story. Edward Radzinski. That's right, the Rasputin file. Brian Moynihan. That's right. Rasputin, the saint who sinned. Well, I won't deny it, but hopefully the saintly part's much larger, and I know that it is. But last but not least, Douglas Smith. Rasputin, faith, power, in the twilight of the Romanovs. Without these men and their extraordinary efforts of deep, deep research, nothing would be possible to have really the truth be told and the amazing experience of telling this story. And so, from my heart to yours, my friends, thank you deeply. And your work was exceptional. It was extremely complex because all of the truth of my life was hidden away in a bunch of vaults and boxes. Thankfully, it survived. But it was scattered and disorganized, and it required tremendous skill to piece through and determine how it all laid out and what was true and what wasn't. Indeed, and Douglas Smith, certainly. I appreciated them all, but you, my friend, were immensely thorough and immensely dedicated. So to you, my friend, cheers to you, eh? That's right. God's blessings are upon you all. And indeed, Brian Moynihan and Joseph T. Furman, they have gone up to the Lord. Thus, my love to you there, and my love to Edward, and indeed to Douglas here. And I encourage everyone to read these books. Read these books. That's right. To become inspired with the truth and thrilled by the adventure and the mystery and the wonder of what's in these pages. Indeed, my friends. Indeed. You know, it's a real joy to be reunited in heaven with my deep and dear friends, indeed his closest family, Tsar Nicholas II and his family, his wife Alexandra, his son Alexei, and his daughters, Anastasia, Olga, Tatiana, and Maria. Well, indeed, I loved them deeply. And indeed, my own family, my wife Praskovia, and my daughter Maria, my daughter Varvara, and my son Dmitri. Well, we are all united in love, that's for certain. And, you know, I didn't agree with the Tsar upon everything, but I always acted in everything that I felt was his best interests. And I had deep, deep love for him, and I tried to save him by giving him helpful advice that indeed could have saved our country. But our hopes are still alive. Indeed. Well, you know, I could go on for quite some time, my friends, about many different topics. But I think that I've covered a great many things to a good deal of satisfaction, so that you have a good impression of where I sit upon your world today. And indeed, no matter when in the future, whatever issues you are dealing with, indeed, if we come back to knowing God in our hearts, then we'll know love, and that's what we need to handle anything that ever will face us. That's right. You know, to say a final thought, I predicted, I saw the arrival of nuclear bombs. That's horrible. And I pray that they'll never be used. And thus it was tested at Bikini Atoll. And thus the world was forever changed. There's no excuse. There's no excuse to have such weapons of immense power that can destroy the world and not be also at the same time able to ensure that all are cared for. That's right. But you know, one good thing did come from that. Yeah, that's right. It's the word bikini. Oh, well, the women's swimsuits, bikinis. Ah, well, that's something I'm very proud of, my friends. Indeed. Yeah, that's a real joy. And there's many things, of course, that are real joys. The great films, great music, great discoveries, great medical advancements. Wondrous people, wondrous children being born all the time, filled with gifts and talents. Wondrous leaders. Tremendous advancements of the rights of all have been made since I was murdered in 1916. And that's a real great joy to see. So I don't want you to think that I'm only focusing on the things I see that are still lacking. It's just they're glaringly lackingly so when I see the exact same things from well over 100 years ago. I kind of would have thought perhaps they would have gotten on top of. But they will be one day. That's right. And we focus upon the great strides that have been made in all walks and manners of life. And we say, well, that happened, thus this came too. So indeed, my friends, whoever you are, wherever you are, I tell you this, God's blessings are upon you all, and God lives within you. That's right. And, it's a real joy for my voice to be heard again in the modern day. And I hope that it can really bring some goodness to people's lives. And I hope that people will also see that I struggled deeply with a great many things. I did some things that were quite bad. Not as bad as they said I did. But when I would drink, I would become a pretty nasty individual. And power, it could corrode me too. But in the end, I never lost sight of the fact that it was God I was trying to serve. And thus it was that I performed miracles. That's right. And there's a real great need of people to understand that miracles are possible. And to see that the things that we cannot see, they're just as real as those that we can. In fact, they're more real. The spiritual side of life, the mystical, beautiful side of life, that's what people need in their lives. And that's what my life was all about. And if I was able to connect in that way to God while still being a sinner and a drunk, well then, whatever you're dealing with, I hope that helps you to know that, well, you can be having some horrible sins, but forgiveness is always there. The path to God is always there. Indeed, miracles come true, my friends, and the presence of God surrounds us if we only take time to realize it and listen to Him and to feel Him. Thus it is that my story will be told, and I am happy to have it told after, it's been a while. It's been, 108, 9 years? It's about time. And by the time the story will be up, it'll be even longer than that. But well, what can you do? But indeed, this young fellow, Benjamin Roberts, well, he's learned about my story. Thus, he has put together a vast depiction of my story, my friends, and I look forward to having everyone see it. And thus, it will be on his YouTube channel, And that's using that kind of thing for good, as I'm doing now. Thus, my voice can really be heard in the way that I intended it to, and can now echo down through the ages, ringing with truth and not with lies, and hopefully can really add something to all people's lives in the future. That's right. And so once again, my friends, indeed, God's blessings are upon you all.